I'm kind of paranoid in a sense, is one of the reasons why I do want to find out the real information. Because I truly think that I could have steered off in the completely wrong direction. When I was little, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 9, and my dad left the house. My mom was always working, and Snoop Dogg raised me, right? When you,
I know what you mean by that. Yeah.
so I started to internalize this view of blackness that I think was counterproductive to me. And I know people will disagree, but I think that hip hop music, at least in its mid '90s iteration of it to the near present, what's popular at least, is one of the most destructive and degenerate, depraved forces to ever hit the black community. And I personally started to think that was my destiny, was to be what those gangster rappers were.
Welcome to We Who Are Dark,
A conversation in history and humanities. I'm Dr. Neil Vaz.
And I'm Trent Tomengo.
Aquaba.
All right, so welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of We Who Are Dark. And I believe the last recording we had Eddie Bowie on.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that like periodically, just to get people who have been in both of our classes so that they can talk about their experiences and how the information, sort of transform things. So hopefully you all enjoyed the Eddie Bowie interview. But I wanted to pick back up on your trip to Africa because we didn't finish. Yeah. And what we were just talking about off camera with where we ended up, I think it was a whole conversation we were having about cognitive dissonance. Yeah. And now I think I remember how the conversation ended because I think I was talking about how the cognitive dissonance that I feel, being a military person or even living here as an American and saying, I'm proud of my country.
Yeah.
And then I was likening that to the cognitive dissonance that you say you kind of felt when you learned that your Ashanti people, where you come from, like some of them were slave traders, some of them were the victims.
Yeah.
And so, if I remember correctly, you weren't sure which one of those strands yours particularly came from, but you were okay with not knowing.
Yeah, I was okay with not going any further and continuing to look for the specifics of the specifics of the specifics, because at a certain point, it's almost like this. It's like an obsessive compulsive disorder that someone might have, like always having to go back and check more, just to make sure that things are right, things are perfect. I felt like as long as I went back and was able to mix and mingle with the people in Akan country, because those are the Tree-speaking people of Ghana, where I could trace my ancestors back to, that was enough. Knowing the specific family and the specific individual, the specific ethnic group, because the Tree speakers, like I said before, there's like the Ashanti, there's the Fenty, there's the Denchia, there's a bunch of different subgroups within the Akan speakers. I don't really need to know those specifics. But then there's the part about like whether I am whether my ancestors were, the perpetrators of the slave trade or not. Of course they were. Not only on my African side, but also on my European side, because like I said before, we're all an amalgamation of these different ethnic groups that comprise of who we are here in America. But based on American laws, we happen to be classified as historically as Negro or as Black or whatever the case may be. So that has always compelled me as an individual identifying as Black to go back and find my Black roots, Black ancestors rather than my white ones. But because here in America, the Blacks have typically been victims of this system in America. You don't ever want to think of your Black ancestors, your African ancestors, as being the perpetrators in such a crime.
Right.
Well,
so, that's the whole victim mentality. Like,
yeah.
I think it was the artist Carol Walker. I read something where she said something of this effect. I may be getting it wrong, but she says something like, everybody wants to be a victim, like in some type of way. Something to that effect. And I used to explain to my students what that meant. It doesn't mean that people want to be violated, but what it means is that sometimes we get our pride from being the victim. And so that's kind of where you at.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at with this. So when I go and find out my African ancestors, some of them may have been slave traders, I could still embrace the Akan culture, the day naming, the language, the food, all that stuff, without embracing or taking pride or condoning their aggressive military actions of enslaving people or of the profiteering or the pirateering and all that stuff that they were doing. I can still embrace the culture without embracing the politics of war that they engaged in. And so that's where I'm at in terms of that. So I can still call a spade a spade. I think that, if I'm going to look at history as objectively as possible, as I can, and if I'm going to condemn the white man in America for lynching people all throughout all these years, right? And we can equivocally say that these things are wrong in America. Then I can also say the same thing about an Ashanti individual that might have put profit over people and then just thought about the material gain that he could have gotten from engaging in a slave trade with the Dutch or the Portuguese or the
But I want to throw something else in there that you just made me think about. When it comes to our identity, how we see ourselves and how we understand ourselves, to know that, your, for lack of a better term, your people in the past were the perpetrators of a certain kind of violence that their current descendants now benefit from. They benefit from that. They are privileged because of that.
I see.
Right? What does that do to the cognitive dissonance in you when you see that even how you came up, let's say for instance, you understand that you come from that strand that were the catching and selling, hypothetically speaking. And if you come from that, that means then that the fact that you are here in Sanford, Florida, you've gone to Howard, you've done this, is a direct result of that privilege that you got from that. If you came from, let's say, the other strand, we don't know what your life would have been like. So what does that do to your dissonance when you think about, I'm privileged because of what these people have done that I disagree with?
So you mean in terms of the like my ancestors being forced into the Americas, being in the Western Hemisphere, and having the privilege of, I guess, being in close proximity to the United States, or being in the United States and having the benefits and the privileges of being in the United States. In that sense, I would.
No, not privilege like that.
Yeah.
Not privilege like that. Like you talked about the riches of is it the Ashanti?
The Ashanti.
You know, and I asked you like, did you celebrate those? You said no, but I can't celebrate those riches because I know how they got them.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, if you are a descendant of those that are now celebrating the riches, then can we argue that your trajectory of your life is a direct benefit of
absolutely,
that crime
absolutely
against
not.
humanity?
No, because my ancestors were obviously sold by those people who made those riches. They made money off of.
But you say you didn't know which one you.
I know, but if hypothetically, if I am a descendant of somebody that the Ashanti sold, right? It might have even been an Ashanti criminal. Like it might have just been. I might have been an Ashanti myself. But if I'm a descendant of somebody that the Ashanti sold, Ashanti got rich off of my black body, off of my ancestors' black body. That black body didn't see any of that wealth when they ended up on the
But I understand that part because then we're in the same position we was in from jump, right? But what you said intrigued me about understanding that your people could have been part of the ones that did the selling, or they could have been. You don't know which one.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, let's assume it was the people who are now the one that's got the riches. How does that work in your mind if you were to find that out? Which by now you say, I don't want to know.
Well, it can't even work like that because you can never, like, we have 2 parents. We have 4 grandparents. We have 8 great-grandparents. We have 16 great-great-grandparents. We have 32, 64, 122. And the number just keeps going and going the farther back you go in generations. So it's hard to even say that it would just be one or the other. It couldn't, if you were to say that I am all of the Ashanti that is there,
right.
then I wouldn't be here. I would still be there.
No, I got you. I get you. I get you.
So some of my ancestors obviously had to be the victims of that for me to end up here in the first place. Some of them had to be the perpetrators. Some of them could have been the perpetrators.
So you're far removed from from that to where if I don't feel like
if I have 1,012 ancestors, if I go back 7 generations, and that's just that one line of ancestors. If I have 1,012, if I'm doing the math correctly, like that's a lot of people.
No, I agree.
You understand?
I agree. Okay.
And so which one? Like, some of them are going to be the perpetrators. Some of them are going to be the victims. Some of them.
But this is leading into a question that I've been meaning to ask since we started like this. This episode, like now, so. And I really am truly trying to understand. I find it fascinating that you actually went there.
Yeah.
You know, and knowing the kind of mind you got, you know, I want to pick that brain to see not only knowing the mind you got, but knowing the values you have.
Yeah.
Right? I need to find out, like, how's all of this churning in there?
Yeah.
Right? So before I ask a question, I want to go back to what you said. You're too far removed from all of that to know I'm a direct result of these people doing this because there's too much distance, right? And there are too many ancestors and too many decisions that each generation has to make to do whatever or whatever.
Yeah.
I get that part. What value then, I think I know in my brain, in my head, but I want to ask you, having gone, what value then does understanding all of that, where this is where I came from, where my ancestors came from, and this is the language they speak, which is tree, right? What value is all of that to Neil Vaz now? Other than saying, like, I don't even know. I don't know what to say. What's the value of it?
So for me, it's the deeper somebody's roots run, the stronger the foundation of that tree or that plant, right? You got shallow roots, you got a weak plant. You got deep roots, you got a plant that could withstand all kinds of cold weather, it can withstand hurricanes, all that kind of stuff. Matter of fact, I have mango trees in my yard right now, the ones that are really young, that have very shallow roots. those mango trees died from the freeze that we had earlier this year. The ones that I've had for 9 years, whose roots run deep into the ground, even though they look like they were dead for the moment, they all came back, because you can't kill something whose roots run deep. So I think the more you know about yourself, the more you know about your ancestors, the less somebody can tell you about who you are. And I think that's something that,
I like that.
And I think that's something that we need to, like a lot of people need to emphasize. Malcolm X had a speech about this years ago. He's like,
what makes the royal family of Europe or any country differ from the peasants? Royalty knows its ancestry. Royalty knows its history. This is what makes them royal. You can't have a king who can't trace his history on back into his forefathers. The only way he can be king is to be born a king. But if you take away his history and he doesn't know who his forefathers are, what does he become? A peasant, a common ordinary man. Same with the Jews and the Christians. It's because the Jews have the longest record of history that they can call themselves the chosen people. The Christians can't call themselves the chosen people because their history is not long enough.
They can go all the way back 1,000 years, 2,000 years, and say, this is my grandfather, this is my great-grandfather, this is my great-grand, and they know all their names. You ask a commoner about their ancestors, they know their grandfather, and that's it. They might not even know that.
You know, I'm a commoner. I told you, I only go back as my father's father, and that's it.
Yeah, and he says that's one of the issues, because now you could be manipulated, you could be told who you are, you could be told everything about you, you could be told what you're not and what you are. And Malcolm X made a point in this speech to say that it's very important to know your roots and to know where you come from, because if you know who you are, somebody else can't tell you who you are.
All right, but I've been knowing you, what, over 20 years now?
Yeah.
You've always been Neil, very principled, very focused, very intelligent. I didn't know you was intelligent at first the way you sat in my class. You know, right. Right.
Yeah.
But you know, I've always known you as being who you are. So your trip to Africa, for me, I'm like, what more could it give you? Your roots have already been strong. From what I see, my standpoint of looking at you, you've always been strong-minded. You've always been strong-willed. You always have had a positive outlook on life. You've had a positive outlook on yourself. You've had a positive outlook on your kids, right? Like you have not drunk the Kool-Aid of racial victimhood.
Yes, I have.
I've not. You have not given me those things. You have not expressed that to me in our conversations where I know you in that way. And there are some things in particular that I remember you told me, and I had to revise how I talked about things in my classes. So I know you don't do the whole victimhood thing.
Yeah.
So, and this is very small, but I remember you leaving my class and going to eventually ended up in DC.
Yeah.
And you and I had a conversation years later about Northern blacks and Southern blacks. And I had this very, limited way of thinking because, most of my experience is in the South. And when I meet people from up north, I can tell there's a certain pattern of black people from up north.
Yeah.
But I had said something about, black people in the South juxtaposed with black people in the North. You came back from DC and you said, that's not the case. You say, what I found in DC, I found this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact.
I think I remember what it was.
Okay, but that made me have to revise what I know. So, and from what I understand, it was more like I was thinking more in a victimhood kind of way, and you straightened me out like, no, that's not it. So even back then, you didn't play the victim card.
That was like 2000. That was after 2010. That was when I was like almost 30 years old at that point.
What difference does it make?
It means that what drove me to go to Africa is the same exact thing that drove me to not be a victim. So it's part of the same. It comes with the territory. It's part of the same line of thinking.
Okay.
When I went to what drove me to take your class was getting out of that victim mentality.
Okay, I'm following
So
you.
I was evolving that entire time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? And this was part of my evolution. So if you would have met me when I was probably 15 years old, you'd probably think I was just a degenerate. Like no, I'm just kidding. Not a degenerate, but you.
I started to say you still degenerate. But no.
But you would have thought that I was a victim. You would have thought I made a lot of excuses. You would have thought that I was ignorant of certain things, and I probably was just a typical 15-year-old. I don't think I was probably any more ignorant or anything like that, but I was a typical 15-year-old that used to use a lot of things as excuses to lower my own standards, right? And I internalized a lot of propaganda about black people. And I think the conversation that we had in D.C., or about D.C. versus Florida, I think it was this. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said that a lot of black people, and you generalized, you said a lot of black people say that they think that there's this thing known as acting black. Like acting black.
That's what it was.
Like you talk black, you this, that,
right,
that,
right,
and a
right.
lot of
if you talk with standard English, you get called white.
White, you get called white.
I got you.
And all that kind of stuff, right?
Right, I remember.
And that's what I experienced in Florida as well.
Right.
People would say that I talked white if I talked with good diction and if I talked proper, right? But then I said when I went to D.C., the definition of black is so wide.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Right.
That you can be anything.
And you find them on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can be anything and still be black.
Okay.
In D.C. as opposed to the very narrow and limited definition of being black in Florida. Right. It's two different things.
Right. And I had to revise the way I talked about that because I had to understand that I'm speaking from my experiences and not necessarily from what is empirical that's out there.
Yeah.
Right. I just needed to be exposed to more people and more things.
And I heard that so much less. Like I honestly don't even know if I've ever even heard it in D.C. anybody saying because you're educated or because you talk a certain way. Like, yeah.
So I want to go back to the question about what did it do for you?
Yeah.
All right. You say, I was part of the victim mentality. And I don't know you as I've known you being on this trajectory all the 20 years I've known you. So for you going to Africa, for me, I was like, okay. And I think I said in one of the early episodes, this is like Neil on steroids, right? Yeah. But I want to know what the steroid portion is because you already had a good sense of self before that.
Yeah. So, and that's where I get to the point where I don't have to get all the nuances of every little aspect, right? What this just did is it just kind of, I fulfilled like a pilgrimage that I've been.
All right.
Because
that's a totally different thing.
Part of the whole trajectory is I majored in African history so I can learn more about African people.
Gotcha.
And black people all over the world. I majored in African diaspora history. So all my undergrad papers that I wrote in my history classes, because history was my minor in undergrad when I was at Florida State, I would always choose a topic that had to do with some kind of diasporic topic. And I would always do the research, check out the books, and do the readings. And even in your class, and even in Dr. Wright's class, with the Malcolm X speech.
Haven't got a revolution that doesn't involve bloodshed. And you're afraid to bleed. I said you're afraid to bleed. Long as the white man sent you to Korea, you bled. He sent you to Germany, you bled. He sent you to the South Pacific to fight the Japanese, you bled. You bleed for white people. But when it comes time to seeing your own churches being bombed and little black girls murdered, you haven't got no blood.
All of that was me trying to learn more about my roots before I went to Ghana.
So that nobody could tell you about who.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Totally.
So Ghana is the icing on the cake. Ghana is the pilgrimage. Ghana is what I've been thinking in my head I wanted to do for 20 years, but just never been able to do it. I've told you I bought the tree book probably 5 or 6 years ago. Just never read it. Just never, actually like delved into it. I wrote a lot of my papers on the history of the Ashanti when I was in graduate school, but I just, never actually went.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know all the information, I read the books and stuff, but I never actually been there to meet the people that are actually there and or see the sites and be in the sites.
So going there made all of your readings real.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did that feel like?
I guess it kind of like it legitimizes me as a scholar, as a historian, and all that kind of stuff.
See, this is the Star Wars stuff I've been trying to get.
Yeah.
And maybe I haven't been asking the right question.
Yeah.
All right.
It legitimized me as a scholar, historian.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then also it legitimizes me in my mind to them, for those people to embrace me, talk to me, and want to know more about me and my connection there. That was also a valuable thing, and then like I said in one of the other episodes, to speak the language of your ancestors, because I know it's just sometimes I hear something and it sticks. I don't remember who said it, but they said that we speak the language of the oppressor.
Right.
And I was like, damn.
Right.
And ain't nothing I can do about it. Or is there?
Right.
And then so I'm like, well, maybe I should just learn an indigenous language. And if I'm going to learn one, I'm going to learn one that I know that my ancestors spoke by way of Karakou. So to go there and speak the language to them, they speak back to me. That was...
So that was a kind of a validation.
Yeah. That felt good. To hear that people call me their cousins and long-lost brother.
And Yao.
And Yao, give me a name. They give me the name Yao. I was like, man. And then whenever I tell them my story about my Kujo ancestors in Karakou, where my grandfather comes from, they're, oh, yeah, you're definitely one of us. Kujo, yeah, we have Kujo, we have Kujo, we have Kwajo. And just to kind of...
So you felt like you belonged.
Felt like I belonged. And we're talking about, me coming back and us, doing some business tour thing together to invite more African Americans to come back.
I want to throw this in there too. Just observation. We all want to belong to something.
Yeah.
We all, every one of us want to belong. As a matter of fact, we want to belong so badly to things that we will shoot ourselves in the foot to belong to a group or organization or people. We would shoot ourselves in the foot to still belong to them, even though we know that it's not good for us.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember listening to a podcast during the COVID pandemic. I think the podcast was You're Not So Smart with David McCraney. And he was, David McCraney. He was saying, he had an episode where they were interviewing people who were actually dying from COVID. Like they were like on their deathbeds. Yeah. And like they were interviewing these people and they were breathing through these machines because they couldn't breathe. And they was like, do you now believe there's a problem? Or, do you wish you would have masked up? They still said no.
Yeah, because they're part of the group that wouldn't.
And the biggest fear, people say the biggest fear that people have is public speaking. The biggest fear is not belonging. Loneliness kills people more than cigarettes. I can't remember the study that I read. Yeah. But belonging means a lot, not just to your quality of life, but belonging means a lot to your physical being.
100%.
And so when you say, I feel like I belong, all right, you belong in other spaces other than that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What did that belonging do that belonging to this, belonging to, your family, belonging with your brothers, belonging to your, all those other ways of belonging? What did this do other than what those things have done?
And I'm glad you asked that, because I was just about to say this, and it's kind of going to bring this all together. I used to think I was above that, the whole belonging thing. For a long part of my life, I used to think I was above that, because if I were in school and I didn't like this group over here because they were too much of this, and I didn't like this group over there, they were too much of that, I'd rather sit by myself at lunch than to be with company that don't have the same values as me. And I was that kid in 6th grade that just sat by himself. Or I would just mix and mingle, I'd go chat with people over here, go chat with people there, because I would rather not just be a sycophant to like this group over here and just do whatever they say or do whatever they want me to do just to belong.
Right.
I would much rather be with myself. Right. So I used to think I was above that for a long time. When I went to college, all these people wanted to join fraternities and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, no, I don't want to join that crap. I never wanted to join any of that stuff. I'd rather be alone. But then I realized I actually do have a need to belong. And it's not even a need that I have, because that desire to belong has been fulfilled because I have a family. And all growing up, even though in 6th grade I didn't have any brothers in my middle school, in 9th grade I didn't have any brothers in my school, I knew that I had them at home. And me and my brothers have always been pretty close.
Yeah, y'all still close.
Yeah, so it's like a gang. I already had, that's my fraternity. That's my gang.
That's gang.
Yeah. So I realized, it dawned on me one day when I thought I was above somebody. I was telling, oh man, I don't need that. I don't need to belong like you guys and you guys. I was acting like I was above them. And I was like, wait a second. That sense of belonging has been fulfilled because of my brothers.
Right.
And I never felt like I had to go outside of myself to feel a belonging. But the whole brothers concept goes along with family. Family goes along with ancestry. Ancestry goes along with knowing your roots.
Right.
One of the important things about belonging is I think it coincides with the idea of knowing your ancestors and knowing your roots. People want to feel like they're part of a long line of people that have maybe done some wrong, maybe have done some right, but they want to know that they belong to something.
To something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that that's a part of that. It's like, yeah, I could have 4 brothers. I could have 3 brothers and feel like I belong to that, or yeah, I could work at Seminole State and feel like I belong to a group of professors. Or I have a group of friends that live in my neighborhood that I grew up with that we still are all connected together.
Right.
Like, that's belonging. But why not extend that notion of belonging and just keep it going, get it bigger and bigger? Like, I belong to a long line of people who have walked this earth and walked this planet. I'm a part of that. And so, I mean, and this is why when I used to tell my kids bedtime stories at night, I would tell them stories of things that I know about my ancestors. I wouldn't just tell random stories. Like, I wouldn't talk about King George III to my children, and then so now they're sitting here like fawning at the feet of this random guy that they're not even connected to. I'll make you guys are the center of the story. Your ancestors are the center of your story, your life. And you continue this legacy, and you make those ancestors proud, right? You're part of this long line of people.
So then, is it safe to say that your trip to Africa solidified your identity of who you are? You already had an identity, but did it solidify it? Did it make it more solid? Did it make it more concrete? Like,
well, I guess you could say that, but in my life, I don't ever like to see it as anything as concrete.
Okay.
I like to see it as constantly evolving and learning and knowing more. So I guess in a sense, from where I was before, I guess it would be more concrete, more evolved, more knowing. But I don't want to say like this is it.
Well, let me be a little more pointed in what I'm asking. Your principles have always been your principles ever since I've known you.
Yeah.
When it comes to your experience there, especially with the cognitive dissonance,
Yeah.
has it done anything different to your principles? Made your principles either stronger or in flux, as you're saying, things can be in flux?
I think the principles are pretty much the same, I would say. I guess my principles come from my mom. I remember when I was like 3 or 4 years old, she used to like sit us down and teach us like basic things, like do unto others as you would like done to yourself. She'd drill in her head, she wrote it on the walls and stuff like that. Be good and do right. That was another one. Like, and so it's actually just really those two that stand out the most, because she used to like, it was like repetition.
Hammered it into you.
Yeah. Do unto others as you want done to yourself. Be good and do right. Right? Whatever that means, right? Because like there's different. But for me, I'm like, as a kid, you're just like, okay, good means like, not being mean, don't hit. But she would always say, if someone hits you first, hit back.
Yeah. What is it? What did
if someone lays his hands on you,
send them to the cemetery.
I like that religion. That's
an
good old time
religion. That's the one that Mom and Pa used to talk about. Yeah, my mom did talk about that.
Yeah. Well, my mother taught me that too.
Yeah.
So don't start it, but you better end it.
Exactly. So those types of things were instilled in me, and so even if in life, early on in life, I might have drifted from those things, the cognitive dissonance that I would experience when thinking about my principles versus my actions would compel me to say, okay, maybe I need to change my actions to align more with my principles. And all along the way, that's the experience, right? So, I'm 10 years old, I might do something, and then it's like I get in trouble for it, and I have to sit there and reflect and think about it. I'm like, dang, maybe I shouldn't have done that. 15, same thing, 20, same thing. So as I go on and on and on, I'm always trying to, that's my guide to life, those things that my mom told me. And that's probably why I was taught that smoking was bad and drinking was bad. And my mom said, don't be good and do right. And so I'm in my head, even though I know it's not, like it's...
Right, I know what you mean. Yeah. In your head, that's how it's translated.
Yeah.
And so you didn't do those things because she didn't teach you about that specifically.
No, she didn't.
But that's how your mind associated good.
Yeah.
And got
because as a kid...
I mean, which makes sense.
As a kid, at what point do we say, okay, it's not bad anymore? It's like your mom says be good and do right, and then you're 5 years old, don't drink that alcohol. 6 years old, don't drink that, don't smoke that. 7-year-old, 8-year-old, you get to 17, 18, 19. Do I say, okay, it's good for me now?
No, but that's not how it happens. That's not how it happens. See, you don't drink. That's not how it happens. Is that's bad. Don't do it. It's bad for you. As soon as I get a chance, I'm gonna find out how bad it is. I'm curious. And I come from people, up in the sticks in the panhandle of Florida, where people still have moonshine sticks.
Yeah.
So you get a taste when you're around like 12.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I did that, right? Because certainly I don't want to put my family on blast. But no, seriously, like it's not like I was taught smoking is not good.
Yeah.
Even though my mother smoked at a certain point. When I was young, my mother smoked, but she would always tell us, "Don't do this."
Don't do it. Yeah.
Right. And eventually, like I think in the like late '70s, early '80s, when I was, I think in middle school or whatever, she stopped smoking. And my mom did not take another cigarette until she passed in her 80s. Wow. But my mother smoked.
Yeah.
But she always told us, don't smoke. So when I grew up, I always, okay, don't smoke. It's bad for you. Don't smoke. Mom even gave it up. Yeah. Now, don't smoke is bad for you. But then I'm like, I wonder what it tastes like anyway, just to see.
Yeah.
I don't smoke now. But when I did do that at like 15 and 16, I just wanted to see what it was like. What is it that, so it's not that simple.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess along the way, I guess the journey is all about foundation and not having people be able to uproot you from your foundation. Like if I know who I am and I stick to it, and
so, and I keep saying you already had the foundation. What you're saying to me, or what I'm hearing, I've always had this foundation, but now the roots go even deeper.
Yeah, the roots go
deeper. It hasn't changed anything.
Yeah.
It's just made what I am now even stronger.
Knowledge, for me, knowledge, if I could make a metaphor, knowledge is I'm a tree, and then like you just pointed out, the roots just running deeper and deeper and deeper. Knowledge is the roots, and the deeper that goes, the more sturdy that tree is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens in your life, you know that your identity is set.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you who you are. Nobody can tell your kids who you are.
Yeah.
Because the things that you taught them from, like you said, you gave them lessons about their ancestry. You talked about them, you made them the center. Those things are like with your kids.
Yeah.
And that's all like very solid.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell your kids about you.
Yeah.
People in your life. Nobody can, if someone comes and say to me, I saw Neil doing this. I'll be thinking like, that ain't Neil I know.
Yeah.
You saw something different. Or, true to who you are, you'll do stuff just to mess with people.
Yeah.
Not that it's true, but you'll do it just to mess with people, to get people to think outside of their own box.
Yeah.
I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
All right.
I play devil's advocate a lot.
Right. But I like this idea of your going just sort of made you even more emphatically who you are.
Yeah.
Because I say this, I like who you are. Even though we have differences of opinion, we have differences in age, there are a lot of differences we got. But me and you, we do real good together, I think this podcast is another example of that. But, I got mad respect for you, man. And having gone to the continent now, it's like, you like the Joker on Jack Nicholson Joker on the first Batman. Yeah, wait till they get a load of me.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, man, I think I'll give you the last word for this one, for this episode.
So, and I was actually gonna mention this earlier. And I'm kind of paranoid in a sense, is one of the reasons why I do want to find out the real information. Because I truly think that I could have steered off in the completely wrong direction. When I was little, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 9. And my dad left the house, my mom was always working, and Snoop Dogg raised me. Right. I
know what you mean by that. Yeah.
So I started to internalize this view of blackness that I think was counterproductive to me. And I know people will disagree, but I think that hip hop music, at least in its mid '90s iteration of it to the near present, what's popular at least, is one of the most destructive and degenerate, depraved forces to ever hit the black community. And I personally started to think that that was my destiny, was to be what those gangster rappers were. And I stopped doing well in school. I stopped all that stuff. I thought that was for white people. Just like you said, in Florida, talking well and doing well in school is white people. So what does that mean black people are? I grew up in Florida, right? So it was a breath of fresh air when I went to D.C. and to see that that's not how it is over there, at least. At least not as extreme as it is in Florida. So the belonging thing, right, goes back to that. I want to belong. People have been telling me since I was in elementary school, you're black. So I started to identify as black. My parents never told me I was black, but people told me I was black. And then when I go around black people, they say I'm not black enough. What do I got to do to be blacker? You got to talk like this. You got to listen to this kind of music. You got to dress this kind of way. So I spent all these years in middle school and high school sort of, I guess, accommodating those people's desires of what blackness is supposed to look like. And then I'm in 11th grade, 12th grade, and I realized people that I went to elementary school with, white people, that I used to be way better than at math. I used to beat them in all the times tables. I used to beat them in the handwriting contest. I used to beat them in the spelling bees. I used to beat them in all that stuff. They're all signing up now to go to all these universities with their good grades. And here I am with a 2.0. And I said, damn, how did this happen? And I had to reflect. Because I remember I reunited with one of my old friends from elementary school when I was in high school, a white girl. And I started to hang out with her a lot more, and she was shocked at how I performed in school, because she remembers me from elementary school being top of the class. And what could explain this downfall, this academic downfall? And I attribute one thing to the fact that my dad left the house. But I also attribute another aspect to what came into the house after he left the house. And that was that propaganda. I call it propaganda because it is what it is. It's if you can only promote and emphasize a certain type of thing. I'll be okay with hip hop music if the popular hip hop music was a variety. Right. Some wretched, some conscious, some of this, some of that, but I call it robotic thuggery. You're like a robotic thug. Like you have to be a thug in order to sell records. You have to curse in order to sell records. You got to do these things. That was the most popular music when I was growing up. I don't even know what it is like anymore. So when in 11th and 12th grade, when I realized this, I said, damn, I got to change. Something's got to change. And that gave me the consciousness at that point to start thinking outside of the box. And then that's when my dad moved back in 2003 when I was after my first year at Seminole State. I took Dr. Wright that first year. I got so it was like everything I needed in my life. Black male role models back in my life. my dad, a professional with a bunch of professional friends, like reintroducing me to these people and saying, there's other ways of being a black male, right? Rather than what you see on TV every day. That's why I tell my kids, get off your phones and stop scrolling TikTok and all that nonsense. They're brainwashing you. And so for me, I was paranoid that my kids might grow up like that. So I was like trying to, as I was having kids, I was in graduate school. And so I was learning all this information about Africa, and I was like, oh, I gotta buy this book so they can read this. I gotta get this children's story, and I want all their heroes to be brown or black. And I want them all to be, you know, they need to be the protagonists in the story, and it needs to be, and they need to know not only just these foreign figures, but also their own family ancestors and stuff like that. And so I'm very particular about the information that is getting planted in their little brains, as well as mine, because even if it doesn't manifest in the moment, that seed is there and it'll manifest at some point later on. Yeah. Right. So that's why knowing my ancestors, knowing my roots has been so important to me. It's just so I don't want what happened to me, what could have happened to me, because it didn't happen all the way. I was able to get right back on track due to you and due to others and everything like that. But I was able to get back on track. I don't want that to happen to anybody else. Yeah.
Damn.